I'm John from Great Lakes Country, and today we're making what is probably America's favorite coleslaw. That's right, KFC's coleslaw is cited by so many people as their personal favorite variety of coleslaw. And well, if you clicked on this video, I probably don't have to sell you on it. And the copycat recipe that I'm making today is the closest I've ever had to the real thing. And personally, I think it's a little better. But it's got that familiar flavor profile, the texture, the mouthfeel, even the appearance. So let's get right into it and start making this super easy and super tasty KFC Copycat Coleslaw recipe. First, let's take a look at our veg, and it all starts with the humble cabbage, in this case, a green cabbage. Then we need a little bit of carrot. I'm using some pre-matchsticked or shredded carrots from the store, but you could certainly just use a whole carrot. And then we need a little bit of onion, not nearly this whole thing, but really just a little bit of it. And we're gonna be mincing that up pretty finely to go into this slaw. So to get our ingredients ready, it's pretty straightforward. I'll start by chopping this whole cabbage in half, right down the middle. And then I wanna get rid of this kind of hard part of the stem that comes up into it. Just about like that. Get that out of both sides. Now, let me mention that when I make other variations of coleslaw, such as the various kinds that I make for, say, a pulled pork sandwich or other barbecue side dish purposes, I usually go with more of a shreddy texture in the cabbage and the carrots and everything else. But KFC uses a very finely chopped version of coleslaw for their veg. Rather than shredded, the pieces are practically minced into little teeny tiny bits. And we can absolutely reproduce that. You could certainly do that with a chef knife, but we're gonna be making it simpler and way faster today by using a food processor. Then we need to chop this thing up into some smaller pieces that will fit comfortably into that food processor. And it doesn't really matter how you go about doing that. Just cut it up into some chunks until we've got a big old mess of cut up cabbage. As for the carrots, well, they're already matchsticked, so we don't have to do anything to those before they go into the processor. If you're using a whole carrot, I would get it peeled and just cut up into some, I don't know, some slices or something. Just cut it up into some small pieces. And for the onion, we're not gonna need a whole lot of this thing. Maybe I'll get half of it ready just to make sure that I've got enough. I'll just cut it and do some rough chunks. About like that's just fine. Now we process. Now a lot of food processors come with this disc that has some basically graters on it and a slicer depending on which way it's facing. And this thing can be pretty handy if you're trying to make some pretty shreddy vegetables. But it's not really going to achieve the little teeny tiny bits that we're going for with this style of slaw. So for that, we pretty much just need to use the regular processing blade. And we want to cut it all into little bits, but we don't want to turn it into absolute mush. So we need to take care and just sort of do a little bit of pulsing until the texture is where we want it. We don't want to just fire it to high and let it run. Now I'm gonna start with my onions because that's what I need the least amount of. And I'm sure I'm not even gonna need this much, but I'll go ahead and throw it all in there anyway. And I'm just gonna give it a few pulses until those bits are broken up pretty small. Something about like that's looking perfect to me, and that's pretty much the size and consistency we're going for with all of our vegetables. And we only really need about 2 spoonfuls of this minced up onion for this batch of coleslaw. Something about like that. It's not a real onion forward coleslaw, as I'm sure you know if you're a fan of the KFC slaw. Now I'm doing the different vegetables in sort of different batches in the processor, mostly for the sake of this tutorial to kind of show you the consistency we're going for with each thing. But honestly, when you go to make it yourself, you don't really need to do that. You can just throw it all in the same thing. It's not gonna matter. Probably have to do the cabbage in a couple of batches just because it takes up a lot of space, but you don't really need to do the onion, carrot, and cabbage separately like I'm doing here. Anyway, blades back in. We'll do the carrots next. And again, these are already kind of shredded up, so they're not gonna take much. And what we're going for with the carrots is about 1/4 cup of those pretty finely chopped up carrot pieces. That's it, that's all we need. And last but not least, the cabbage itself. We're gonna be shredding up this entire head of cabbage, and again, I don't wanna overload this food processor all in one go. It's not a humongous food processor, and I don't wanna get it bogged down to the point where it's only chopping up the stuff at the bottom and the stuff up at the top remains big. We're gonna end up with a bunch of too finely chopped and mushy cabbage there at the bottom. And it would certainly help if I had put the blade back in. That right there is about the perfect consistency to me. If I have any little oversized flecks or flakes in there, I'm not gonna worry about it too much. Like this guy here, I can just throw him back in and give him another hit. But generally that's about what we're looking for. Little pieces that are generally kind of uniform, nothing overly ground up into pulp. So anyway, let me get all this out of here and we can do the next couple of batches. And there's a great big old bowl of some shredded up cabbage if I've ever seen it. Now simply enough, we'll add in the carrot and the onion. Give that all a little bit of a preliminary mix. And tell me that's not already looking almost identical to KFC slaw. But it's not, because of course, we still need to make the dressing. And our dressing is made by simply combining the following: a half cup of mayonnaise, a quarter cup of buttermilk, a quarter cup of regular milk, this is just some 2%, a third of a cup of white sugar, 2.5 tablespoons lemon juice, 1.5 tablespoons white vinegar, half teaspoon salt, half teaspoon black pepper. And we'll just get that all thoroughly mixed together. And that's it. Dressing is made, so now we can finish up our coleslaw. From here, there's a couple ways we could do this. I'm a big fan of the great big Ziploc bag routine where you just throw all the slaw and all the dressing in there, mix it all up, and it's ready to go. But you know, since I've already got all of this chopped up veg in a big bowl here, I might as well just use that. So, in goes all of that dressing, and I'll just start getting it all mixed in. Just gonna use a big old spoon, scoop it up underneath, fold it all in. Doesn't take too long. Just make sure everything's evenly coated, all that dressing is distributed. And that's almost all there is to it. But as with any slaw, it's really gonna be best if you put it in the fridge for a little while. So I'm gonna cover this bowl with some plastic wrap, stick it in the fridge for, I don't know, about an hour or two. Really let all that dressing do its thing, let all those flavors come together. It's just gonna taste better and, well, look better. So I'll be back in about 2 hours. And there we have it, the most beautiful KFC Copycat Coleslaw recipe. Time for a bite. Perfection. Just the right balance of sweet and tangy, the texture and the size of all of the little pieces of things in there. Just right. So yeah, if you like KFC's coleslaw, you're gonna love this. And honestly, the only difference is that mine's fresher. It hasn't been sitting around for days, and you know, I don't know if KFC's slaw gets delivered to each store in a big bag or something, made at a factory a week prior or more. I don't really know, I've never worked at KFC. But there's no question that the homemade stuff tastes fresher, has a little bit more of a crunch to it, and you know, I think it just looks prettier. Anyway, if you want to see the full written out recipe for this KFC Copycat recipe, I'll put a link to it in the video description below. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including, of course, future food videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.